welcome to Black Spaces. And as you can tell, we are in Wakanda. So we are welcome you to our Black Spaces Black Panther Wakanda Forever review. And I'm Todd, and joining me in this space to give their impressions of the film is none other than the absolutely extraterrestrial terrific. That don't work, does it? But anyway, I'm always trying to work with these, with these descriptions that properly describe the royalty that I'm among. So joining me, Todd, is Toya and Taleiba, and Toya. Welcome to Black Spaces.
Hello.
How y'all doing?
Good.
Good.
Great.
And we want to wish everyone our American audience, because we have an international audience, y'all. Mm-hmm. Our American audience, we will wish you a happy Thanksgiving or a happy shortly thereafter Thanksgiving, because we suspect you might have already gone to see the film. Well, in fact, we suggest you see the film first, because we'll have some spoilers in here, so spoiler alert. But after you and your family have gone seen the film, come and check out our review, because we're going to give you some good insights. And so what we're going to do is we're going to give our general impressions of the film and do a little unpacking, and then we're going to go eat some turkey. Well, now, Taleiba, what y'all having today, or what if the people watching this after Thanksgiving? What's going to be your leftovers?
Leftovers, I would have to say it's probably going to be turkey, like most people.
Okay, all right. All right, well, that's unique. People don't usually have turkey. Okay. Toya, is there any particular dish that's going to be featured on your Thanksgiving Day table?
Well, my partner is Jamaican descent, and so we are having oxtails, curry chicken, as well as turkey and mac and cheese. So we probably have a little something from both sides of the border, as it would be, or across the ocean.
Oh, y'all gonna have a diasporic
yes, we are
Thanksgiving table. All right. Well, since I'm having fried bologna sandwiches, I might want to come over your house. So because everybody know I don't cook. Well, it's not I don't cook, I don't like to cook. But that's beside the point. That's not what y'all came on this channel for. Anyway, all right. So let me ask y'all's the general impressions. So Toya, why don't you go first and just give your general impressions of Wakanda Forever, in terms of just the range of things that you saw in this film?
I think it really moved the needle in terms of what we expect when we go see Marvel movies and superhero movies. I read somewhere that this was the end of the phase 4. And that most of the films, if not all the films, dealt with grief. And I felt that this was a suitable, respectful discussion about how grief shapes the decisions that we make. I mean, there was some action, there was a really typical battle scenes that we expect in Marvel movies, but it also gave us an opportunity to get to know the characters, their motivations. I mean, I believe this is the second longest film in the whole Marvel history. And my attention was kept the entire time. I think that the actresses, the actors, the director, the background dancers, everyone deserves a kudos, because it was an excellent film that really lived up to the hype.
Okay. Thank you. So Taleiba, what's your just general impressions?
I have to say the same thing with Latoya saying, like, especially Toya, especially when it comes to the grief, because it's going from the first, movie, because, there was some grief there between, the two main characters, Boseman in there. It was just like he felt abandoned from his family. So then and of course here, his wrath of what he did kind of disrupted the healing powers that's needed.
Right.
Because they can't bring them back, they can't bring them back.
No.
So there's a lot of grief, and then the mother passes, so, and then, it's almost like, how much more can go on, and for her to even have additional allies that are giving her nuggets of how she can heal.
Right.
You know, so I felt like there was a lot of tie-in from the first movie, you know, into to here, especially when it comes to, like, you know, even the connection of the vibranium, of how it got there and
Right.
how it's connected to the water.
Right.
You know, so it's
Right.
like that's something that we didn't really think about in the first one. So my overall impression is just like it is cerebral. It makes you think. It's outside of just fight scenes and destruction. There's a definitely a theme that I can't wait to see continue.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And I too liked this film and thought it was just a beautiful film. You know, beautiful cinematically, beautiful in terms of the themes that Ryan Coogler was you know attempting to delve into. Beautiful also in the sense that it was clearly a homage to his beloved friend and actor Chadwick Boseman. And I'm wearing my white, and I joined the group. I think you did too, Toya. I think you heard you say, but I joined a group who were all walking into the theater with our white on in tribute to the white that is the mourning color for Wakanda, but also it's a way in which we're sort of mourning in Black America, and the world is mourning, of course, Chadwick Boseman, who's a native South Carolinian, and I'm here in Columbia, South Carolina. So I think the all of the things that he's trying to do, which were really quite complex, you know, you could tell that that Ryan Coogler was also a big fan of the Marvel comics in a lot of ways, because there's a lot of Easter eggs from Marvel comics in here, but there's also ways in which Marvel comics history of dealing with sort of social and political history and Black history came through in unique ways. And then of course then you know, then Ryan bumps it up several notches, because not only does he deal with sort of the African diaspora and Afrocentric themes, but now he's dealing with the Latin diaspora and bringing in sort of the history behind sort of the Mayan Empire and the ways in which that is served as a source of pride, but also a pain of what was lost in the civilization relative to European colonization. And so both of these societies were dealing with European colonization as they were trying to figure out their place in the world. And of course, the usual question of taking of resources. But that's sort of the broader, those are sort of the macro things that went on in this film. You're right, my sisters. At the heart of it was grief. And what does grief do to us? And how do we live through that grief? You know, and particularly, again, the grieving we've done with the pandemic. I mean, I think in some ways, all of us can just think through that trauma we've endured in our families and among those who we love. So this film kind of deals with a lot. I think I got to watch it again several times to kind of pull all of that apart. Yeah.
And how you react when grief shows up. Like,
you
could have just given up and say, you know what, this is it. I'm just, you know, it's just like, no, I have a bigger purpose. So it was above just, you know, her, you know, for you know, so
yes.
And then also I love the fact this movie show that, you know, black women are tech. So it's like
that's right. Riri, Shuri, yep, that's right. Sisters got it going on.
Game recognized game.
Showing that black women are in technology as well. So not only here, but it's like this is reality. We do have black women that are super successful in technology. So I do like how they tied that from the first one and just didn't leave it hanging. Like, no, we went in college back.
That's right. You know, I've heard, and tell me y'all's impression. I've heard that, well, I've read, and I think I've mentioned this on other Black Spaces show, that there was a set of concerns, even among some of Chadwick's family members, I think his brother, if I'm not mistaken, to say that we really want T'Challa recast, that Chadwick wouldn't have wanted T'Challa to die with Chadwick. And so how do you, what's your impressions of how that was handled. And then, of course, I'm also thinking of that angle of, well, why can't a sister be the Black Panther?
Right.
Why can't the mothers of the nations who also be the protectors of the nation, the women of the nation also be the protectors? So anyway, to me, that element. But Taleiba, what do you think of that idea of how Coogler dealt with Chadwick's death, not by coming up with a replacement, but by actually dealing with his death? And then Toya.
Well, I mean, that's, you kind of, if we really look at how it played out the way it should play out, who else is going to lead?
Right.
You know, through
That's
that.
right.
And then it's going through the lineage, you know,
That's
so
right.
I think it would have been kind of weird to just kind of like, all right, we're going to do this. It's keeping it true to the line of how they do things in Wakanda. Like,
Right.
you know,
Right.
there's no, like,
That's right.
and like now they have the how they can actually, you know, you can be overlooked or overshadowed or misplaced. So
Right.
I mean, you got to look at how a lot of the queens are selected.
Right.
So,
Right.
so I don't have any sons, so I, you know, here it is. You know, so
Right.
it still kind of resonates with
Right.
how things have been going historically. That's just my spin.
No. Yeah, I hear you. And the whole and there was some real tension between Queen Romanda and who remind me, the sister who's the head of the Dora Milaje.
Okoye.
Okoye. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
that was masterful about that tension. It's like, you stood by my nephew who betrayed me,
right?
You know, and that's real. That's what pain and grief will make you do. That is remember grievances.
Right, honey. Drag it back.
Bring it back.
Like, yeah.
Right. But so what do you think, Toya, in terms of how Coogler dealt with Chadwick's death, not by coming up with a new Black Panther T'Challa, what he actually did, but by acknowledging it and moving through it in this film?
From my understanding, in the comic books, Shuri does become the new Black Panther, and I think to Taleiba's point, it is a lineage type of assignment. It is passed down traditionally from one member of the family to another member of the family. And I think that it has to happen that you, in situations, would have a Black Panther who has died.
Right.
So it's not like they're recreating the wheel. Black Panthers die, and why wouldn't the character die and the actor die? And we have to handle the transition, because then that in itself opens it up to how do we handle transition. One thing that did come to mind at the very end when M'Baku showed up to challenge, I'm like, who is he challenging? You know, is he challenging Shuri? Because she wasn't there. That leads her to another aspect of why she wasn't there, which was like in the after credit scene.
Right.
So I think that it was handled, and I remember just the whole process of how the thread carried over. It wasn't just the one funeral scene and then that's it. The fact that they continue to discuss the grieving process.
Right.
Give an impression that he had died and it had been a year later and people were still going through it.
That's right.
Shuri still hadn't burnt her funeral clothes.
Right.
You know, they were still having the conversation. They were still trying to iron out the transition, which is life. You know,
that's right.
People who pass on and go to the upper room, it's not that the next day everybody's fine, well and dandy. You still go through it years later.
That's right.
I think that the script was written in a way so that we know they're talking about T'Challa. We also know they're talking about Chadwick.
That's right.
The lines that were spoken by Letitia Wright was stuff that probably Letitia Wright felt, not just as Shuri felt about her big brother.
That's right.
Going on, you know, Queen Romanda talking about, have I not given enough?
That's right.
You know, that scene between her and Okoye, I mean, that is master class.
I agree.
You're giving like, are you honestly saying you came back and you lost my child?
That's right.
You asking for your job, keep your job? Listen.
Right.
What you're gonna do is
you're
gonna lay that spear down. You're gonna walk out.
That's right.
You know.
Yeah.
Because that wasn't necessarily rational completely.
No.
it was grief talking, but again, I
Right.
think the way it was handled with the transition, because it is a matter of how did she keep her job? Like when the decision was made and she basically stood by, is it like
Father.
T'Challa told
Right.
her, like, yeah, you can go ahead and keep this job because for whatever reason?
Right.
And then Queen Romanda was looking at her, calling her eye the entire year afterwards. Like, I'm just waiting for that one time you're gonna mess up because you're gonna mess up.
Right.
And then you went.
Right. Just showing that it's okay for also showing okay that in Black America it's okay to grieve.
Right.
You know, because that's
Well,
such
that
a
we must.
stigma of, oh, we put them in the ground, you should be okay. Like, no, it's a process. It
Right.
doesn't, it takes time, and it could
Right.
be 10 years, you know, you still
Right.
feel that impact. And I
Agreed.
do like the way that this is tying that together. Like, it is okay, and you will, you know, come out on top, you know, at the end of it, because it is a lot like that in, you know, whether you're Black, brown, white, whatever,
Right.
however you identify, but mainly within our Black community, it's like grieving is kind of like a taboo thing. Oh, you need to get over it, you
Yeah.
know.
Now, let me pray
Right.
for you. It'll be all right.
Right, and it's like, no, there's a lot of work that goes into
That's
the
right.
grieving process.
Right.
It's not just crying.
That's
Right.
right. That's right.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And you sometimes you got to talk to the preacher and somebody else.
Right.
With some letters behind their name.
The good preacher will send you to the counselor. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I thought it was. I saw one critic who sort of said, "Oh, wow, you know, it's just this was just nothing but. I mean, it was a great film, but it was nothing but a legacy to Boseman," which I think was incorrect, was not true.
Right.
Right.
It brought in a whole new nation. The Talocan, sort of empire into the Marvel universe, which we knew was in the comic book by way of Namor.
Right.
But visualizing it on the screen is an entirely different matter. And then, of course, wrapping it in sort of this Mesoamerican empire and historic and civilization, which is just masterful to talk about one sense of empire versus another, or one sense of historical legacy versus another. But having said that, you're right. That aspect of, you don't just get over grief. You don't just get over it.
Right.
It's a lifelong process. If you love the person, you know, it's sort of some part of them are with you for time immemorial. So yeah, I like how they dealt with that.
But it's funny how they say I just wanted to say this about how it's a legacy thing for Boseman, but let's think about all the Superman movies. It's never, you know, it's like we're not
right.
It's like it is a continuation of things, especially with suffering, you know, but it's like they never said that about any of the Superman movies.
No,
right. Or Batman for that.
Or Batman.
No.
You know, because we've had, you know, Christopher Reeve died, right?
Right.
So, but we never heard those type of utters with that.
Well, and quite frankly, I think that Coogler dealt with it in a much more human and humane way. It wasn't just, you know, let's flash, you know, in tribute to Chadwick Boseman.
Right.
Then let's move on. You know, that, which I think would have been a problematic way to do it. I mean, we know there are boundaries. It would have been problematic just to flash his name on the screen. It would have been problematic to say not recognize, or to just simply have, oh, T'Challa is here again. And you know, to me, it's interesting because this, you know, conceivably, this film is doing well.
Oh yeah,
I'm forgetting what the box office. I'll flash the box office receipts as of now. But it's doing well. You know, almost doing as well as the first film, at least in, you know. And we got to keep in mind that was pre-pandemic versus now. But you know, it would have been problematic again just to flash to replace him, if you will. My point also being that, you know, when you have a play, if you have 3 acts, it's always the second act is the act that is the, you know, like things go wrong, you know, it's the things fall apart, the empire strikes back, you know, it's always sort of like that episode where there's some fundamental challenge. And I think this film does it well. So the third film will be about some notion of resurrection. And as you're saying, Toya, it's also part of that. It will now be part of what would be phase 5 of the Marvel universe sort of scheme. And so it'll be new beginnings in some way. Particularly now I'm gonna tell you, I'm just gonna I'm gonna be I ain't gonna be so manly I can't admit I cried. And I cried.
Oh yeah.
Men cry, real men cry. And I cried. I had held it together through for all of the film. Then you know what happened? Folks started getting up at the credits. I said, "Do y'all not know this is a Marvel film?"
Every Marvel film gonna have a nugget at the end.
I'm like Leroy, where the hell you going? This is a Marvel film. There's always something after the credits. So I said, "Okay, I'm gonna sit right here." I mean, and actually, some of the people I came with got up. I'm saying, "Where y'all going?"
Right.
So where I cried is you know where I'm going. I'm sitting there seeing Shuri starting to burn her funeral clothes, and I can feel a tear welling up because she's thinking about her brother and how to resolve and getting some sense of resolution. And then when Nakia sat down with that little boy, I said, "I know who that is."
With the dimple, I'm like, see,
he had them same dimples. And actually in Disney, there's a mural of Chadwick looking down, either it's Chadwick and the Black Panther, looking down at a little black boy, and the little black boy looking back up him. It's sort of an image of him, with the little black boy looking up at it and admiring the image, of him. So that it reminded me for some reason that image of that little boy. And so, okay, so this is your nephew, as Nakia is saying to Shuri, this is your nephew Toussaint. And when little boy says, Toussaint is my Haitian name now, Toussaint Louverture, the father of the free Haitian nation and revolutionary, which of course, it ain't no mystery that of course Ryan Coogler would bring in the sort of revolutionary Black history, but then in a free Black nation like Wakanda. But then when the little boy says, "Oh, but my Wakandan name," I said, "He's gonna say it. He's gonna say it. He's gonna say it. My Wakandan name is T'Challa." I boohooed. I said, "I made it all the way to the end."
I was crying at the beginning. I was like, one thing that really struck me was at the very beginning is that I was telling my partner, I've been going to movies for 4+ decades. This was the first time it was dead silent, except for some sniffles. Maybe that was me. At the beginning, the way that the funeral was shot.
That's right.
And I kept thinking about you, Todd, about we need to have some women in white with some fans and the cloth and people's getting splayed
and some salt.
And I mean, because everybody was like, it started off small, and you started hearing the sniffles, and it's just the way that is the waves of recognizing that, like we're saying, grief is not just a 10-minute interlude in the church while the organ plays and you read the obituary yourself.
Right.
It is a wave. It is the joyous celebration of the life. It is the recognition that they have gone on. It is the remembrance. It is the hesitation and resignation that you won't have an opportunity to do this with them again. So yeah, you needed to have that transition to be respectful for the legacy. You could not have just had that's all folks and move on to the next one. You needed that, as the kids would say, you need to hold space for those who are going through the process of transitioning and grieving.
Right. Because he was suffering making the first, making the film, and has suffered from before. And so, we don't understand his full
Mm-hmm.
grieving of knowing like any day this is gonna be it.
Right.
Right.
I mean,
because he put in like multiple films that came out, like, sir.
Right.
You
And
were
so
just
now
working hard.
after he's gone, now those who were around him are acknowledging like he was hurting. Like
Right.
That's right.
he was making those scenes and he had to take time out
You're right, Taleiba.
to actually recover,
That's
but when
right.
you're so far in it,
That's right.
you don't actually recognize what someone's really going
Right.
through. You don't know what they're really going through. A lot of hurt and suffering that he was going through, but he ended his life doing something he enjoyed. It was his passion.
That's right.
And so that's the other takeaway with this one. This was his passion. Like he
right.
enjoyed doing this film.
That's right.
Right.
So just looking at that particular legacy of it, of how someone can persevere through, you know, a disease that no one is privy or knows about, the privacy of it.
That's right.
And
That's
so
right.
many other people around us are suffering, and you don't know what they're going through.
That's
So
right.
just a really eye open. I can see, you know, I get emotional, you know, looking at the beginning, you know, that's, you know, so it's just like, but it just brings light to reality.
Yep, I agree. I agree. All right. One last thing, and that's our and all of this has been our unique critique, but I'm gonna end with this, which is toward the end, we did get a same gender loving relationship that was confirmed, which had been this alluded to, but not directly. It had been alluded to in the first film, but not directly referenced. And that was Okoye and is it Makiba? Did I have that right? That was her lieutenant. So you remember the lieutenant?
This was an A. It's like Ayo or something.
Yeah, okay. We're gonna post the right name in the chat. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I should have looked up my film notes a little better here. But you know, two gorgeous sisters. So you could tell that it was a relationship. But and so you know that whole notion sometimes of, you know, well, you know, Black people, African people, we ain't got no same gender, whatever. Whatever. But then the other aspect, and here's what I want to ask you about. So I'll put it directly. Well, but did the film have to have two sets of colored folk fighting?
That was the point. That was the point.
I think so, because it's showing, like, you know, because what's really going on now, like the majority is becoming a minority, so that would be kind of like a truthness of how things could potentially be. I mean, are there any, you know, we don't see any white people in there. I mean, it's like,
well, and actually the white people were scheming to that point, Taleiba, because from the French, you know, trying to take over that station to the United States, saying, well, if we had, you know, the CIA director saying, well, if we had vibranium, you know, ain't no telling what we do. Or that's the reference. So it's like, that's why we're trying to get it from you, because you're not playing fair by not giving it to us.
Right. Yeah, we can take a whole spin on that, and let's look at like the diamonds in Africa.
Exactly. That's exactly. This is what it's a metaphor about. It's like, okay, hand it back to gold.
When there's gold, when there's a resource.
That's right.
You know, or oil, you know, there's a resource, and we'll go for it. And so it just even shows how this is how it is in reality.
You're right.
Fights, these wars.
Right. Yeah. Well, we won't use the word colonizer. Okay.
Said wars.
Well, they did. They used it.
So what do you think of the whole, you know, what this child of the Mesoamerican civilization or Aztec or Mayan civilization fighting this child of African civilization, Toya? What does it make it look bad that it's two nations of color fighting against each other?
I think, like she even said, that's realism. I think that we see it when we go outside, that we are sometimes pitted against each other. But I do take comfort in the fact that at the end, he realized that there's no need for us to battle against each other when the big bad is just waiting.
That's right.
And just like Namor was saying to his second in command, she spared my life because she's going to need allies. No one else is going to understand when they come to her door what is necessary to be done. No one has done what, in a sense, our people's already done with facing white people trying to take our resources. Wakanda has not had that to the extent that he could identify in his lineage. So yeah, she's going to need that experience. And I think to the point about the colonizers, I did enjoy the Martin Freeman character, because we remember him where he was like captured and his life was saved, and so now in this we see that he's running and they like showing up, and they, you know, he had the bees and he's communicating to, you know, the queen. And at the end, when he gets popped and he's getting ready to go down, they got him shackled, and then they show up and take him away. He
Right.
was like, he was very happy. You know what I mean? Because, you know, you always got to have the reverse of the person. You know, too oftentimes there's been persons of color being the one that's the one sitting by the corner or keeping tabs of what's going on. So of course, why not have him on your side getting
That's
the
right.
intel?
That's
you
right.
know,
Yeah.
Right.
use him for that resource, because he was very eager to go back to Wakanda, because I'm sure he wasn't feeding him like he was getting fed in Virginia, like they fed him in Wakanda while he was there getting nourished. But he was probably happy to go back there.
That's right. That's right. And yeah, and given that what Wakanda has given to so Wakanda was responsible for now remind me of this. It wasn't Captain America, was it Bucky or Captain America?
It was Captain America.
Captain America was
when
saved
like the
by
way that it end like the way it was when it ended was Bucky went to Wakanda to be repaired and to be anti whatever it is when they anti-brainwash him.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
Like basically nursed back to mental and physical health.
Okay.
And it, you know, sort of, and this is like a little side note, when they had the Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Right.
And then there was a big incident where they were fighting, and Bucky and the Falcon was like standing by. He sort of rushed in, and they did that 1, 2, 3, and his whole arm dropped off.
Right.
You're right.
So,
right. Okay. Yeah.
You have to recognize your friends. Them black folks did you right.
That's
so
right.
I'm sure that Martin Freeman probably had the same thing, where they basically made sure that he was still on this side of Jordan. So of course, he's not going to betray the Wakandans' trust. So let's see what happens. We may see him in the next movie with him a little batik on, coming out of hut, like Bucky was coming out that hut with the one arm.
Okay.
When they went back to Avengers, Infinity Wars. He might be with him a little Wakandan wife with some little Wakandan baby.
Wakandan wife?
Honey, you know.
Well,
No tea, no shade, no pink lemonade. You saw his ex-wife, and you saw the Wakanda women.
Okay.
Well, that is very true.
Yeah, he looked like he admired. We'll put it that way. He looked like he admired. Okay. Any other impressions? One critique of the film, and I'm sorry. You know, when we get on here, there's things that just come to mind given our great discussions. There was one critique of the film that I've heard consistently. It's too long. What are your thoughts? It's too long.
I don't think it was.
I mean, it's not too long. I mean, it's only to me. It's like you want to tell a complete story. Like that third one may not be as long, you know. So, you know, what else are we doing? You know, so if it's an interesting story, I mean, we talk about long. We talk about long. Let's look at Gandhi.
Okay.
Like, that was like people went to the theaters and saw that with an intermission.
Right.
If the movie can capture the audience,
Titanic, right?
You know, I don't think there's a limit to it as long as it's, you know, it's engaging and impactful throughout the, the entire time. I mean, we look at the last Batman. I did not like that. Like, that was too long for no reason.
Okay.
Because it's like, where was the story? If it's a continuous, we're traveling, we're doing this, we're, you know, trying to tie a reason, you know, I don't think they could have did this movie in 1 hour and 30 minutes.
No, I don't think so. No.
Not at all.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Too long, Toya, or no?
No, not at all. I think it told the story. In fact, I mean, you think about it, it could be some more stuff added on to it, you know, because you really want to get a better sense of, like, for instance, they didn't address the blip in this. So you have to wonder how and what happened during the blip. Because I thought about that, you know,
we mean the blip.
Vacuum.
We mean the blip.
Remember when Infinity War, when Thanos snapped his fingers and 50% of the population died, including the Black Panther.
Okay, tying it in.
And then you think about it, when it had the war, I mean, the Endgame, that was Shuri, Black Panther, and Okoye showing up to walk out. So we all knew that Black Panther died. So They could have put a little bit more about what happened during the blip as far as in the Wakanda.
Yeah, I see.
Pony up to what happened now that once again we have a point where there's no Black Panther. What was going on during that year? You know, technically, is Shuri still princess or is she not queen? We could have had her coronation.
Well, you know what? I think what happened is, so here's what I project. We'll find out in the third film. Third film is probably going to move us ahead several years.
Right.
T'Challa will be a teen. And I think that M'Baku will be sovereign, will be king. And Shuri will be chief scientist in the Black Panther.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think because M'Baku probably had no challengers, and he might not have had challenges. Now we'll see, because there might be another villain emerging. You know, there was a whole discussion about would Dr. Doom show up in this, which was intriguing, but it didn't quite come through. So I heard that rumor, you know, through the internet, but didn't seem to be the case. I don't even think that Namor is really, you know, which I thought was clever by them saying no Amor. You know, the Spanish colonization, the priest, you know, the death of the slave of the plantation, and the child, no Amor, no love. Well, Namor. Yeah, no love for you because of what you've done. You know, but you know, I don't even, to me, it's interesting because Black Panther, and this is a deviation a little bit, but Black Panther has these really complex villains. Oh, we didn't even mention Killmonger returns.
Right.
I'm like,
but he had to return.
He had to. You're right.
Because he started this whole havoc.
Right.
He burnt all the stuff. He burnt everything up, you know, out of his own rage and selfishness.
Synthetic purple flower, the purple heart shape that she had to create.
That's right. That's right. And so, to me, it's really kind of complex. And that's the thing about it, is the villains are villains, but they're complex villains.
Right, and that's the best part.
They're not,
like you can empathize with them.
You can empathize with a villain, right? You can empathize. In each case, with Namor and Killmonger, they are both taking vengeance on those who have done violence or will do violence to their nations, right? They're trying to defend their nations with great violence. Or in Killmonger's sense, he is speaking on behalf of the lost tribe, the rest of us, right? I've always wondered if the lost tribe is all people of African descent, or just, you know, anyway, but the lost tribe of those who are not Wakandans. And so he's sort of like, well, you know, I know what they've done to the rest of them, you know, as he did in the first film. And he said, you know, well, how can we sit back as Wakandans and see slavery and colonization and new Jim Crow and all this happening to the rest of our people and just sit here idly? And so he was angry with Wakanda because they were just sitting on their comfort and their technology, you know, and not taking a side for the rest of our peoples. So
like the Malcolm X.
Malcolm X. He clearly was. You know, the Malcolm X. You know, sort of the righteous anger, the righteous, you know, sort of use of violence. So I thought that was really complex. I will say though, in answering my own question, maybe just a little editing, but I couldn't tell you what. I couldn't tell you what to take out. But yeah, I do have a couple of old people with me. Like people my age who fell asleep. Now,
really?
You know, yeah, they did.
But was it as long as Avatar though? Because Avatar was,
oh my gosh,
was pretty long, and it
we'll have to check. But yeah, I think you're right.
Avatar was pretty long, and I'm like, you know, it's kind of like similar to how things are like with Wakanda and Black Panther. And there's so much detail that went into that. That if you took something out, it would take away from like either what's to come. All these Easter eggs, like we all probably gonna watch it 10 times, you know, find something else.
And what if there isn't a 3? What if there isn't a 3? I suspect there will be, but if there isn't, this is a complete story into itself. So yeah, you know, I mean, you could project. Okay, we'll stop it here. I told y'all we were going to talk for 10 minutes and we went longer. So y'all endured me. I want to just give a little shout out, if you can see this.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Nice.
A friend gave this to me today. And I want to say his name, Brother James Bryant. We had gone to the film together. And so he gave me this Chadwick Boseman, Forever Our King, 1976 to 2020 by Mia Johnson. So it's just a beautiful photo tribute. I have a picture. I'll flash it for our viewers. I have when Chadwick when he died, I said I want some tribute to him in my home because of what he represented, and in some ways because of his death when it happened with Black Lives Matter, with all that was going on in terms of the pandemic. So I have this beautiful print of him as the Black Panther in what I call my blue room in my house. That's so, and it's blue because of Howard University, University of Michigan, but now it's also blue because of Black Panther. Yeah. So, but thank you, my sisters. I think overall we conclude that it is a fitting tribute to both the legacy of Chadwick Boseman and to the Black Panther. And I think we're going to be unpacking this film for a while because it's it's one of those. And I don't know about y'all, but I would vote for Angela to be reconsidered for an award.
Yeah, it's about time.
She brought the house down.
She looks amazing. She looks amazing.
Looks amazing. Yeah, at age looks amazing. And shoot, between her and Viola Davis, those brothers better get it together. like these queens are doing all this at let's just say beyond age 25.
Right. Out of age. They're doing it out of age.
Out of age. That's right. Doing their thing. All right. Well, so thank you so very much. I appreciate it. So this has been your unique critique from Black Spaces. I've had great pleasure of sisters Toya and Taleiba. My sisters have joined me in this critique of Wakanda Forever. And so if you'd like to check us out, you can check us out by way of our YouTube channel. You can check us out by way of our Facebook page. We have our website, which is www.blackspacesshow.com, www.blackspacesshow.com. Or if you want to give some comment, we can also be reached by way of our email, which is blackspaces2001, blackspaces2001@gmail.com. And I know there's some other stuff that's coming up. Toya, you had talked about that the Kindred is coming up by Octavia Butler. We know that Star Wars Andor is ending as of Wednesday. The season 1 has its final episode as of November the 21st? What is that? 22nd? But that Wednesday,
the 23rd.
23rd, yes. So maybe we'll come back on and talk about it a little bit. So we got some other good stuff coming up to discuss, and I'm sure there's some Star Trek and some other stuff. Yeah, we got other stuff that we can talk about in Black Spaces. So check us out. Thank you again. And as we say, now what's that slogan we use, Toya? Because my brain is not where it ought to be.
Help Black Spaces to help like, comment, subscribe to help Black Spaces thrive.
Yes, right. So if you notice that we've switched it up a little, we used to say like, comment, and subscribe to keep Black Spaces alive, but we said let's punch it up. Like, comment, and subscribe to help Black Spaces thrive. All right. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Thank you, Toya. Thank you, Taleiba. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, bye-bye. Oh, yeah, Wakanda.